This is the Naki Brite Beam for the Game Boy Color, light and magnifier for the Game Boy Color. It comes in two parts here. So this is it's the same thing as the Naki Brite Beam for the original Game Boy, which is my favorite light magnifier. You put two batteries in here, it's got a little light here, and this slides over the Game Boy, and this goes on top of it. It works great. This comes off actually pretty easily. I never used the magnifier back when I was a kid, but it works fine. And then you got the light switch here. And I found out only recently that there's a Game Boy Color version. Now, spoilers. This is a terrible device. I really am not impressed with this one, which is a shame because I love the original one for the original Game Boy, the gray one. This purple one did not do a thing for me. So let's see here. So my first question was, does this work with the Game Boy Pocket? A lot of accessories are also compatible for the Game Boy Color, are also compatible with the Game Boy Pocket. That's because they are very similar in many ways. Yep. Well, unfortunately, the answer is no. This is not compatible with the Game Boy Pocket, and that is because even though the ports all line up, and it does this attachment part does slide over, does fit over the Game Boy Pocket, because of the extra lump here in the Game Boy Pocket, the curvature. It does make it difficult to put on the Game Boy Pocket. But in addition to that, even when you do get it on, it ends up covering like a bottom of the section of the screen, just because the screen on the Game Boy Pocket is so much bigger than the Game Boy Color. It's kind of crazy. So for that reason, I mean, you could make it work, but it's really, to answer my question, it's really not designed to work with the Game Boy Pocket. All right, so let's see if we can put this on the Game Boy Color. So let's see here. It goes, right, these two go on this side, so it slides over the top. Okay. So first of all, putting this all on is a little clunky. I don't know why it's so much harder than the original Naki Brite Beam. Oops. Gotta stick some AA or AAAs in here. So this is a tight fit, but I don't blame the device for this because what is it? Rechargeable AAAs. Rechargeable batteries are always a tiny bit bigger than non-rechargeable versions, and this was definitely designed for non-rechargeable versions. All right, and that should work fine. Yep. So before I slide it on, there's actually two lights in this version. So the differences between this one and the original is the original here has one incandescent, I think that's the word, but it's been a lot of years, bulb in the bottom here, there it is. Whereas the Game Boy Color version has, I think, what looks like LED bulb here and an LED bulb here. And since this came out in the early 2000s, they are pretty early consumer LED bulbs. So I think this goes up here. Once again, this is so much more complicated than the wonderful version on the for the original Game Boy. That slides in. Oh my gosh, it sounds like I'm gonna break it every time. Is that to push the batteries in? Oh, you're so weird. Okay, I guess the batteries need to be in. And then that slides up, click, and I still failed. Oh my goodness. Let me just double check here. I got Pokemon pinball music stuck in my head. My gosh. Oh, I see. I don't think I pushed the battery in enough. Let me just hold it over here for a second. Take off my glasses because I'm an old man. All right, I got it. All right, that's on. And so there's the magnifier. So that's on. and it's on nice and secure, so that's nice. Now, here is the problem. I said I wasn't not a fan of this device, so let's see if I can demonstrate. So here's the light magnifier. So let's turn on the game. So if I turn off, yeah. So I wonder how this would look if I just turn the lights off. So as you can see, or can't see, it does a great job lighting up the bottom of the game and the top of the game, you know, where the lights are, in the middle of the screen. It's so hard to see. Who wants to see the middle of the screen, right? No, this is terrible. Oh my gosh. And, you know, as I mentioned, I often play with the magnifier actually removed in the original Brite Beam for the original Game Boy here. But, and I was able to remove this. I won't demonstrate it now. It's a similar process. You gotta kind of wiggle it out, but it was much harder to do on this one for me, and I'm not going to bother with this. Yeah, but wow. I mean, it's almost worse in person. I think the camera's picking up a little better. It is so hard to see the middle of the screen. I think my guess is LEDs just weren't ready. Here, let me turn the light back on. My guess is that LEDs just weren't ready at this time. And yeah, and it really could use a brighter LED light. A brighter LED light, which is a shame because this takes its own AA batteries. So there's different ways that lights can power the Game Boy. They can take their own battery source like this. There's the worm light, which plugs into here. Oh, do I have the other one handy? Then there's this one. I demonstrated in another video where it goes on like this and then plugs in here. And I actually really like this one. It also has an LED light, but it just does such a better job. So it hits the middle of the screen and it spreads out more. It's just nicer. This one, yeah, I was just really disappointed. So that answers my question. Number 1, does it work with the Game Boy Pocket? No. Number 2, is it as good as the original? No. So unfortunately, I can't say I recommend this light.